Good question. I don't know who's doing it. I really don't. It's not Bill Gates. It's not even Klaus Schwab, right? They're not the ones calling the shots because they're the idiots that hang their face in the camera and advocate for all of this nonsense and this
Right.
totalitarian crap. So it's not them. But who it is, I really don't know. I have no idea. And I usually refer to them, for the lack of a better word, as the globalitarian misanthropists, right? So there is a group of people, I have no idea who they are, but they are the ones calling the shots. And our elected governments are mere puppets. They are just, pretty much implementing whatever they come up with. To what end and what their goal is, to me, it seems quite obvious. It is to ultimately erect a one world government.
What are your views on the World Economic Forum?
Well, I'm not a young global leader of tomorrow. I've never been to one of their events, and I look at Pierre Poilievre saying that he doesn't intend to go to their events and doesn't intend to have his ministers involved in them either. And I take the same view.
But why? You're still not explaining what your views are on the World Economic Forum. Like, what do you find distasteful about it?
I guess I find it distasteful when billionaires brag about how much control they have over political leaders, as the head of that organization has. And I think that that is offensive. The people who should be directing government are the people who vote for them. And the people who vote for me and for my colleagues are people who live in Alberta and who are affected by our decisions. And so, quite frankly, until that organization stops bragging about how much control they have over political leaders, I have no interest in being involved with them. My focus is here in Alberta, solving problems for Albertans with the mandate from Albertans.
And yet what's even worse is he said out of this crushing empire would come a fifth empire, that it would be different from any other kingdom. In fact, the Hebrew word, the shana here, means to change something for the worse. I mean, it will devour the whole world, the whole earth, trampling down and crushing it. So that he's saying that it's out of the soil of this Roman Empire would come something else, a different kind of kingdom that he doesn't name, but he does describe it. As he said again in chapter 2, that it would be partly strong and partly brittle. In other words, it would possess as cunning and brutal a ability as the ancient Roman Empire did, but it would be built upon a single national identity, would not be built upon a single national identity, but it would be something that was relatively unheard of in the world of that day, a confederation, a group of dominions or nations, that they would form something that had not been seen before, almost like a political cooperative. That secondly, he went on to say it would not have one leader, but it would be led by 10 leaders. In chapter 7, verse 24 of Daniel says the 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. And it's interesting, though, the word kingdom. See, we see kingdom and we think about kings and we think about Charles and Diana and Camilla and all that kind of stuff. But the Hebrew word is malku, is basically a dominion. It can be a realm, a region. It isn't something that necessarily would fit into the idea of knights in shining armor charging dragons. This is just simply a gathering of a nation of people or group of people or tribes of people. And then in chapter 17 of Revelation, we find that John adds to it. He says, these kings have not yet received a kingdom. So they're not hereditary kings. They're rulers who don't come from any kind of noble background, but they will only reign for 1 hour. For 1 hour, they will receive authority, absolute authorities like kings, along with the beast.
At the same time, we are witnessing rapid technological advances with many opportunities and with artificial intelligence rapidly transforming our production and our lives. And breakthroughs from the fourth industrial revolution provide new opportunities for global prosperity and growth. All those factors will have a profound impact on the future of humanity, provided we are able to work together. To drive future economic growth, we must embrace innovation and foster collaboration across sectors, regions, nations, and cultures to create a more peaceful, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future. At this critical juncture, the active participation of all stakeholders is essential to ensure a sustainable development path. I'm delighted that close to 2,000 leaders from multiple sectors, representing some 80 countries and regions, have come to Dalian for this year's meeting.
I find it fascinating, and it's actually the new world, and it's also built on the platform concept. You create a platform where everybody can share goods, services, and this will be very much the future. The future will not necessarily anymore a world where people own things, but a world where people share things. Now this has quite some implications on the economy, because you have to produce less goods in order to achieve the same satisfaction. You can share the goods. We haven't, with the World Economic Forum, is engaged into a big program to look at the implications. For example, how does it affect property activity increase? How does it affect the measurement of GDP? So it's a new world. It's a fascinating world, and it will be the world of the future. We will share much more what we are now used to own.
It is to ultimately erect a one world government and to transform our liberal, open, democratic, equal societies consisting of free individuals into some kind of a collectivism where the individual is becoming merely a malleable part that can be shuttled around any which way the globalitarian misanthropists need you to be shoveled around, right? So, but it's to ultimately erect a one world government. And that is, by the way, the reason the EU even exists, right?
Right.
So looking at Europe, we're living here on this rather small continent with so many different cultures, traditions, histories, languages even. And the European peoples are proud people. They are. You would have never been able to convince them to just surrender their national state and relinquish national sovereignty to a one world government. They would have never gone along with this. But since they pulled in the EU institutions, right, it's a stepping stone. So it's like, and it's under the pretext of, oh, we've been fighting so many wars on this continent, which is true. And we need to stop this. And the way to do it, we need to come together as Europe and as the EU institutions, right? It's just a stepping stone. So once they are relinquishing ever more competencies to the EU institutions, it's only a small step to then, okay, now we go to the one world government or whatever, right? So, but you need to condition the Europeans to be willing to do that.
And for this reason, apart from looking at how we engage all those new technologies in the health sector, we are also involved still in very traditional ways, like the digital health transformation, Global Alliance on Women's Health, Climate and Health Initiative, Global Health Equity Network, and Partnership for Health System Sustainability and Resilience. all those areas require the engagement of business and the support and endorsement of the political instances. And that's what the World Economic Forum stands for. So I just wanted to express my appreciation and my pride, if I may say so, for what has been achieved. But I think the obstacles, or not the challenges, are coming now. And Peter, I wish that you are very successful in preparing the next phase of the Global Fund. So again, thank you.
In other words, this was something that described all of the previous empires, but more so and maybe more frightening. And the dragon, which we identified as Satan, gave the beast his power and his throne and his great authority. Now, what can be somewhat confusing is not only is there an individual who is called the beast, but the kingdom that he rules over is also called the beast. So we have to kind of distinguish which one we're talking about from point to point. So,